Today, you'll meet a couple who have used real estate investing to help foster over 300 kids. Stay tuned. Welcome to another episode of NoteSchool TV, where every week we bring you amazing guests and amazing content. So we would love for you today to like what you see, right? Like, and then subscribe to our NoteSchool TV channel so you can go back and you can watch a year and a half of NoteSchool TV episodes and see all of the amazing content that we have been bringing to each of you each and every week. Also, remember to hit that bell notification so that you will be notified every Wednesday. Well, when do we go live? Every Wednesday at 11:05 a.m. Central Time. So make sure and hit that bell notification. Also, if you would like more information about what we do at NoteSchool, just go in and go to NoteSchool TV or noteschool.com/TV. Again, noteschool.com/TV. And we would love to talk with you about what we do, send you some more information, get you to one of our one-day classes and all of that. But we'd love to have you into the future. So now let's talk about what's going on in the world of real estate and note investing. Here's the news. So this week, guys, according to Market Watch, foreclosures are on the rise. Here's what that says about the housing market. So with the housing market, real estate investing, 7%, a sevenfold increase in foreclosures from December to January. Now, we know there's an uptick for a couple of reasons. Number one, the forbearance agreements that were really prevalent, 7.9 million properties in forbearance over the last since 2020, mid-2020, and a lot of those are expiring. So what we're seeing as far as what we've been reporting for the last, year and a half is that it's not going to be this tidal wave, this tsunami, but we're going to see loans come through. And in January, it was 33,000 loans went into foreclosure. And we're going to see that just continue to just be a steady stream along. And we know that that right now there's about a little less than 2.2 million loans that are in the delinquent process that may or may not lead to foreclosure. So stay tuned. And again, next week, you won't want to miss our monthly update as well. And then the housing market isn't normalizing. Zillow predicts the wildest home price swing is still to come. So we look at this and we go, okay, and let me get my pen out here, guys, so we can kind of do some marking here. This right here obviously represents, 22%. So Zillow is saying, as well as some of the other forecast companies out there, that what we're looking at, after being at almost 18.2% in appreciation in 2021, as we've rolled into 22, and you can kind of see where this graph starts here, and then it starts climbing the mountain here, but the highest prices, and that correlates directly with the spring buying season. And even into February of next year, and by the way, these are the latest stats that are available, we're still going to be in the 17% or so range as we move into a year from now. So we're still in for a wild ride, and I will tell you that you stay tuned with NoteSchool TV and stay hooked in with NoteSchool, and we're going to keep you apprised of what's going on and how you can make money in this market, right? We want to show you how to close more deals. So with that, I want to bring on our Chief Visionary Officer, our esteemed founder and leader, Mr. Eddie Speed. Good morning, sir.
Hey, Joe. How are you, sir?
I'm doing amazing, man. It is a good day.
It is a good day. And, I literally, I'm not kidding. Martha and I are selling our personal home, and we are trying to time the market. And some of your research is very helpful in a very personal way. So you keep doing that. Next week, of course, we're going to have our full session of market update. We're going to have Joe and I start out with about 120 to 40 slides. We're not kidding. Yeah. And then we have to get it down to about 20 slides that we can cover. And it's quite an ordeal to do it because there's so much going on right now. It's which wild story do you want to tell, right?
Which rabbit trail do you want to go in, right?
Yeah, no kidding. But by the way, that episode every month is by far the most watched episode of NoteSchool TV. So apparently you guys like that. So, Joe, I loved your opening today because your opening said, if you had a heart for kids.
Yes.
And you wanted to help kids, that your real estate investing business could really go to support your having over 300 foster kids.
Yeah.
Now that seems unbelievable, except I know these people's story. Yeah. And it is absolutely believable because they've been able to do that. And they've been able to do that utilizing a lot of creative financing techniques.
Yes.
And note strategies, and been doing it for a long time. So we are thrilled to have them on today, and just to really listen to their story. And we're going to go back down memory lane a little bit with when they started with us buying non-performing notes and what that looked like. And then we'll kind of morph into kind of where they are today and how they see their market. So, Joe, let's bring them on. Mr. Brian and Miss Michelle Winberry.
Yes.
Hey, guys.
Hey, how's it going? Good morning.
Well,
good morning to you guys.
How's Kansas City this morning?
It's been raining for a couple of days, so we're hoping for sun today.
Well, so knowing Brian and Michelle very well, they are very sports oriented and they support their local professional teams in the biggest way. And it's just unusual that you're not wearing a Kansas City jersey of some kind.
No, we couldn't help it. We're trying not to rub it in that Texas boy is here.
As our sons, you know them well, they played real competitive high school football. And actually his college roommate was a boy that played at our high school. And so we watched him play ever since he was about in the first grade. And he played out there at that little junior college, also at Lubbock, Texas. Isn't that what it is, a junior college?
I think you better back off that, right?
I got lots of Texas Tech friends, so I'm sure. Keep your hate mail to yourself, right? I'm only kidding. So, so I met Brian and Michelle. I'm going to say really close to about 12 years ago. Is that about right?
That's about right. Yeah,
that's about right.
And the market this 2008 thing had happened. And so people were sort of scrambling. And what's funny is, Brian and Michelle, is when there's a real estate crisis, most people that say they buy houses, they give up. And that's really the crazy time to do that, because that's the time you should be killing it, right? Yeah. Now real estate's on fire and people are paying too much and everybody says, "Oh, I'm going into real estate." Okay. Yeah. If you do it the smart way, it can be smart. If you just follow the herd and do what everybody else is doing, I don't know.
Yeah.
But let's see. So you guys got started and originally what caught your eye was the non-performing note space. Talk about that.
Hey, Eddie, I'm going to drop off here and you kind of run through that. So I'll be in the background here.
Okay, Joe. Thank you.
Yep.
Well, I think the non-performing space caught our attention because we'd had this whole history of things that we'd done in our life. So, way back we were foster and adoptive parents and children's church pastors and doing things like that. And as things progressed, Brian became a repo man and learned how to do some of those sorts of things. And that gave me the opportunity to learn how to skip trace and research and do credit collection kind of activities. And so when the note activities came along, it was just an easy transition for us. And I kind of looked at it as a scavenger hunt, kind of perfecting my abilities to go out and dig through all of these files and find people and figure out how to, and because we had that eye for helping, we were always looking for, okay, how can we ease their pain, fix their problem, make it better? And so we always had several options of what we wanted to do.
Well, the repo business helped you understand. We understood the debt area, and what they were facing, what we were chasing. Obviously, it was a piece of paper, on a car. So basically, the bank was wanting the asset back. And as we went through it, we understood exactly what they were after and understood all the aspects of it. And it helped us even when we were buying houses. And when the note business came along, we was like, hey, we know more about that than most people. And we wanted to jump into it.
So you had been doing some real estate though, right?
Yes.
We had been flipping and we had some landlord properties and things like that at that point. Short sale.
You love that landlording thing?
No, not especially. There's a time and a place and a purpose for it, but yeah.
It just creates stories. It's like the repo business.
Yeah.
Create stress right here. I don't need that.
So give us an example, guys, of like when you bought a deal, when you started with us in 2010, what would a typical deal have looked like?
Well, there was a couple that non-performing deals that we got. For example, we bought some duplex in Toledo, Ohio. Our note on a duplex in Toledo, Ohio, and we paid, I think, $19,900 for it. And through research and finding different things, I found that property had already been given back to the bank, and there was a deed in lieu in the file that the bank hadn't recognized. So we bought the note, we recorded the deed in lieu, and we were able to then resell the property for $41,000 about 2 weeks later. So it was pretty rapid in some of that things we were able to do then. But that's not necessarily the way it works now, but it did work that way.
So the borrower had already deeded it back to the bank, a deed in lieu of foreclosure, and the bank goofed up.
And through the bankruptcy, actually, it was the bankruptcy attorney that actually, when they took their client through bankruptcy to keep from having that liability, he went the extra mile and said, hey, let's go ahead and just give this back to the bank. And he actually had him file a deed back to the bank on it. And the bank didn't really want to recognize that. You know how that goes. No one wants the liability on that side.
That's a great story. Flipped a note and doubled your money.
Yep.
So what did a typical asset cost, when you bought a deal in 2010 to 2013? What was the typical cost?
Well, that's going to make people upset. About between 10 and 30 cents on the dollar is what we were paying of the unpaid balance.
So you're buying a loan. You wrote a check for $15,000, right? The loan balance was $120,000. What was the property worth?
Well, the BPO, according to the bank, it was worth less than 10% of the BPO on that, or they wanted on that. And what was that?
You're talking about the
St. Louis. Yeah.
Well, that one was different. We paid $3,500 for one with $120,000 unpaid balance, and it was worth about 40. at that point because we were still in that depressed time.
So virtually every note that you bought, every non-performing note you bought back then, they owed a good bit more than what the property was worth.
Yes.
Is that almost always the case back then?
Almost always. Yeah. Yeah. We would see $90,000 balances, $100,000 balances, and we could sell them for between 20 and 50.
Yeah. Which meant that you could try to modify them, right?
Yep.
And you could, and if you did, you drastically reduced what they owed you, right?
Right.
You could get them to write the deed and deed it back to you, or you could take it to foreclosure. Okay.
Correct.
Those were kind of the three possibilities. Give us an example of like the first one, a modification. Did you do that?
So the one that we just discussed that we bought for $3,500 on the note, she owed $120, and we did a modification with her to begin with, and we modified her back down to her original amount, which was $60,000. Still a little bit more than what it was worth, but she wanted to stay there, so she signed the modification. But then she got a little bit nervous, didn't finish out with the modification process, and went ahead and gave the house back to us.
Deeded it back.
Yeah.
Okay. Were you fairly successful in getting them to deed it back to you?
Oh, very. That was my specialty. Okay. I paid a lot of attention to the way I did my due diligence and things that I thought I could find enough of the story to be able to talk to them. Brian could talk them through because he's a really good at the kitchen table close, and he was able to talk them through getting to the asset pretty quickly.
So the reason I'm making this point is that you were buying stuff super cheap, right? Like assets today might be 90% of the principal balance, not 90% of what their payoff balance is, but 90% of the principal balance. And so people tell me all the time today, non-performing notes aren't a bargain, right? And it's a different bargain. It's a different set of math because you were buying stuff at 10 cents on the dollar, but they owed 3 times what the property was worth, right? Then all of a sudden we're looking at a completely different market today. And I wanted to talk about, because people can't relate to that. If somebody is fairly new to real estate, or they're fairly new to the idea of buying creative financing or buying defaulted notes or whatever, it's very different to sell a property in what we call a falling knife market, right? That was a falling knife market. Property was not going in the right way. So I want to talk a little bit about how you kind of had to invent yourself a little bit. You're not reinvent yourself because you'd never really done that before in that manner. By the way, most of the assets you were buying were not in your hometown, right?
No.
So how did you go about trying to liquidate a property back then?
Made a lot of friends with, I would do a lot of research and find out who was the specialists in that market that could tell me what I didn't know. So for example, we had St. Louis stuff, and I tried to figure those things out, and I thought I had the perfect price point of what it should be because I'm a realtor. I should be able to figure that out. But if you don't get somebody in that market, you're going to have trouble. And so I would go find the specialist, the best REO specialist realtor in that area, and have a conversation and tell them what we did and that we were coming up with this asset and I needed some real numbers. And then they would correct me that, because it was across a certain, street or across a certain school district or whatever, that this was what I was looking at. So always work with the best professionals you can in that area.
Right. So back then, the common thread would have been to sell it through an REO specialist realtor.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right. And there was a gigantic network of those guys.
There was.
Yeah. All right. So another thing I think would be interesting to the audience is how you capitalize funding your note business.
Okay. Well, we originally did it with our own cash because I wanted that experience and I wanted that proof of concept. Mm-hmm. So we did that with our own cash. And then because of our network in our meetup group that we have locally, we had connections, And we just sat down with them and said, hey, this is a new opportunity that we have. Would you like to help us with it? And we set up private engagements with them, and they lent us money, and we went through the process, and it was very successful.
So you funded your deals essentially with what is called OPM, right? Other people's money.
Yes.
That's great. Guys, let's do this. We're going to take a commercial break. We're going to talk about NoteSchool's one-day class. And guess what? One of the things that we talk about in NoteSchool's one-day class is exactly what the new market conditions are, what the current market conditions are for non-performing note. And Brian and Michelle will talk about that a little more when we come back. Let's hear from our sponsor, NoteSchool.
Well, hello, everyone. It is Brian with the teaching team here at NoteSchool, and I'm excited that I get to be the one to invite you to the upcoming Gold in Notes class. That's right. It is a one-day deeper dive class that we call Gold in Notes because of how valuable this time spent is. This is a full day that we really get to dig into the nitty-gritty, the whole world of creative financing, not just how to acquire more deals, how to get access to more capital, how to defer a lot of the taxes for us as well as for the sellers that we're talking to, and really learn how to create your own notes. And really, once you learn how to create your own notes, this is really where we spend an entire afternoon really pulling back the curtain on what the note business is, from wholesaling notes, buying and holding performing notes to really build your wealth. I'll even show you a strategy called partials, which is by far the best wealth building tool I've ever seen in the real estate space. And we're definitely going to spend some time talking about non-performing notes, which is by far the biggest opportunity in today's marketplace, solely because of the events that have happened over the past couple of years. This is when people are not paying their mortgages, and we're going to make a lot of big money from these bad debts, and we're going to help a lot of people get a second chance. It's an absolutely fantastic day. Come spend a day really digging and discover a lot of this stuff so that you too can start building your wealth. It's a day meant to really be engaging. Bring your questions, bring your comments, bring your business problems, and we will see you there.
Well, welcome back. Brian and Michelle Winberry here from Kansas City. Incredible story. We are going to talk about the foster kids thing before we leave here, Brian and Michelle. So I don't want to run out of time before we get to spend a little bit of time on that, because that's an incredible story. Brian and Michelle, you bought these non-performing notes and you found yourself where you essentially ran out of your own capital, right? Which everybody's going to do.
Right.
And you used an incredible real estate network to do that. And you now have quite a network, right?
Yes. Our group that we meet every Wednesday morning, and there's a little over 1,400 on the mailing list. So they're not always all there, of course, but they're professionals, they're private lenders, they're professionals in the space, vendors, bankers, real estate landlords, everybody. Comes together, and we meet and kind of mastermind every Wednesday about different things.
So you've always sort of used a networking idea in order to raise capital.
Yes, always.
So obviously with the new horizon in non-performing, I guess you are possibly talking about that with your group.
We are. We're having separate meetings with the group to see who's got that interest in that specialty. And we're also lining up some more commercial capital as well.
You know, this cycle looks different. We said before the call today, you know, I bought non-performing notes since the 80s, right? Now, you know, there's a market for non-performing, and then it goes away, and then there's a market and it goes away. And right now we've entered back into that market in a pretty big way. But this market is different because we're buying loans today that are not underwater typically. They owe less than what the property's worth. Which means, Brian and Michelle, to me, your cycle time in ownership is less. Because every time you bought a delinquent note, then you had to ultimately dispose of the property itself, right? Because you got the property back. In this case, that's not the case. It's probably going to get paid off prior to foreclosure, or you're going to get paid off at the foreclosure sale as the lender, because somebody's going to bid more than what you're owed.
Right.
So
almost every time.
How does that look for you guys now in repositioning your business?
Well, I like that outcome. Brian, did you have something you want to say? I like that outcome because, there's less hassle with preservation and with dealing with, moving people on, because at the foreclosure steps, even here in Kansas City, these people are representing hedge funds. They're representing all kind of entities, and they're paying easy 120% of value at the foreclosure steps. So getting back made whole is pretty simple at this point if you can get those non-performing loans bought.
Yeah, and interesting, what we see statistically right now is about, I would say 70%, maybe closer to 80% of the loans that we see, their foreclosure is already in motion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We've seen some deals that were like crazy close to the end of foreclosure, like within a month or two of foreclosure. So it's been, they've set the foreclosure, they've progressed down the line. Now the loan gets sold, and you buy the loan, and your cycle time and ownership is pretty short.
Yeah.
And do you think it's true? I say this, I want to make sure I'm not overstating it. I say that it's a lot easier for somebody to do the business today than what you guys had to learn initially.
Oh yeah. Because with the way we had to do it, we would get dropped, 1,000 pages of documents in a Dropbox, and we had to go searching to figure that out. And that was after we found the people with the notes to begin with, because it wasn't as available or as a known commodity like it is now.
Another thing that wasn't available back then is there weren't vendors to do all this due diligence for you. We can outsource a lot of the due diligence, from the complicated title to other due diligence factors. We can outsource all that today, and just excessively different than it was back then. You guys I'd say you were pioneers.
Yeah. Even the skip tracing part of that. I mean, Michelle was good at that even when I was in the repo business, but the skip tracing part can actually be outsourced now, so that's a whole lot easier, where we were actually putting our hands and our feet to work just to figure out where these people were, to track them down, to be able to get that deed in lieu, or to get closure on that on the asset. Then
we were at a distressed debt conference last week, and we met with a vendor that you guys know, and they have completely now automated the whole due diligence of a title search. I mean, and they're doing it now for hedge funds, big operations, but it's pretty crazy now that, we can hire, it's kind of like people are nervous about, the foreclosure. I have a working knowledge of foreclosure, but neither one of us are attorneys, and we don't have to know every piece of the law in order to be a business owner to instruct the attorney to progress with foreclosure. Well, now there's vendors that can do this in various aspects of the business, and it just lessens up the load that we have to carry to go enter the business. So now let's talk about the most important thing, which is lifestyle that you've been able to build, and a choice that you guys have made about helping kids. And I want to just talk about how that's impacted your life.
Well, our life, for as long as I can remember, has been about kids. Even pre-marriage, we were working in children's ministry. Brian was in stuff from, very early. I was in stuff as a kid. And it's just always been our heart and our passion to work with children and with ministry type things. And it's been very important, because as we grew into our business, we needed to have something that was flexible, because when crises occur, or when problems occur, and people in the church, or somebody that's needing something, or a foster child that needed to come into our home, or whatever, you've got to have some flexibility and some finances to do that. And then, continuing to have that flexibility as everyone has grown up, and we're currently not fostering anymore, but we do have adopted children, and you go through that life, and you want to be able to provide for them and take them on vacations and do the things that need to be done. So this has provided a good opportunity for us, because we work from home and can just pretty much set what we need to do.
How many vacations have you had?
Last year?
Oh, no.
Quite a few. We started doing a lot more travel. So
That's great. freedom to people means lots of things. Some people think freedom is laying on the beach, and that's fine. Some people think freedom from getting away from their day job is what they want. Some people think not having to worry about money is freedom. I look at your freedom as being your freedom to go have a ministry, to go have, all these foster kids and all the impact of your life. And that's been your freedom. Yeah. It sure hadn't been not like no work, right?
Oh, no, it's still work, but we can work around it, because if I'm going to go do something, or I have a thing that has to be done with the kids, or I have to take them, like I took one to the doctor yesterday, or do something with the grandchildren, we can go do that and work earlier in the day or later in the day. And it's not a problem. Freedom
and scheduling.
Yes.
That's it.
Joe, come back. You know the Winberries very well. I imagine you got a couple of follow-up questions that you're dying to ask.
I do. And guys, your story, I mean, I'm sitting here, watching this, and I'm looking at Michelle's face, and I'm looking at Brian's face while I'm doing this. And, you can see that, that love they have for what they do. And I so respect that. Guys, I remember several years ago, you guys bought, and I think I would give you the award for buying the cheapest non-performing note I've ever seen. I think it was $785 for a non-performing note. What was it, Wameka or Wamucka or something like that?
Wawaka, Indiana.
Wawaka.
On Depot Drive.
It was so small, it didn't even have a chamber of commerce or any place they could call. I think you ended up calling a local diner, right? And getting somebody at the liar's table.
I got the local guy that bought up everything. He was the local landlord. And so, yeah.
It's the only thing set right next to the railroad tracks.
It did.
He went over there in the middle of winter and looked at it, and he come back and he'd say, I'll take it. I was like, praise the Lord, we're getting rid of one.
Wow. It's funny, these stories, how that we know, and we've known you guys for so long, and we just, we kind of all grow together as we grow, and that's the really cool thing about this, and we know each other's stories, and I just remember that, and I remember when you told me that story. So guys, it has been it's been a great ride, and we appreciate everything that you do for the folks you do back in Kansas City, especially with the meetup. I've been to your meetup a couple of times. I know Eddie has as well, and you've got a big room and serve breakfast and do all of that, and it's an amazing thing. And I just know why we know why you're successful, because you're out there and you go with that. As Martha Speed would say, Eddie, that go-giver attitude, right?
That's it.
And so anyway, well, Eddie, any last words? Michelle, Brian, any last words?
Not really, or it's changed since COVID, but we still have a group that still meets us online, and that's great. I mean, the connection that still we have is great. We're looking to get back to our room and everything, and it's a pleasure doing even these things. It's allowed us to be able to, go online and create more opportunities, even when you guys are in Texas and we're up here in Missouri. So
there you go.
That's great. We'll put a link of your meetup in our show notes so that people will know how to connect with you guys and do that. I'm going to say, Brian and Michelle, thank you. You've been a good representation of what NoteSchool, what my heart for NoteSchool was. You've been a great representation of building having a clarity of what freedom meant to you and what that has allowed you to go do otherwise. And everybody has a why in life, and I think you found yours. And it's inspiring. And so thank you for that. Thank you for your service, for all those kids that otherwise would not have had it as good as they needed it.
Yeah.
So thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. And to wrap up, guys, it's all about, to me and to many, many, many of our NoteSchool students, it's all about building a business around your lifestyle, right? Just as Michelle and Brian said, we move our business around and we run it, we work it from home. And we're able to do that because of the way that the note space works. So guys, again, want to know more about NoteSchool and what we do on a weekly basis, and just more about NoteSchool and a one-day class, simply again go to noteschool.com/TV. And guys, the biggie, next week we will have our monthly update. So you will certainly not want to miss that. And when is it? Well, it's 11:05 Central Time. Every Wednesday we go live. So thanks again for being here. And as we say every week, we'll see you on the other side. Bye now.